The Atheist Debates Patreon Project presents the MCU and secular religion. Now, first, thanks for clicking. Welcome. Second, I want to tell you at the outset that by MCU, I am not referring to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This wasn't merely a clickbait, but somebody sent me something, and they tried to create a secular religion, and it happened to use the initials MCU, and we'll be taking a look at that specific secular religion a little later. When we talk about religion, it's one thing to say, what is religion? And you can go to the dictionary definitions, and, it could be a belief and worship of a god or a system of worship. But it could also just be like a pursuit of an interest. I think those are the top three in the dictionary definitions that I looked up real quick. But the pursuit or interest of something of supreme importance seems to be the sort of thing that we all have. And so, wow, I have some kind of religion. I have religion in some form. But the religions that many of us object to are not just a pursuit of an interest of supreme importance. If you're the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan on the planet and you make Dallas Cowboys your religion, cool. I am not going to agree with you, but that's not in the same ballpark as what we tend to be looking at when we talk about religions providing some sort of community and structure and package of doctrines and things like that. There have been many attempts at secular religions and at secular alternatives to the sort of community that religions tend to package. And a lot of it is done with the assumption that there's something within religion that we all need, which should continue to be viewed as religion or religion-ish. I'll make up words because we're getting ready to get into a couple words that have just been made up for this. But of those, there have been attempts to create like secular, agnostic, atheist, freethinker religions or philosophical structures akin to religion to sort of replace the role that religion filled in people's lives. But not everybody comes from a religious background. And I think there's a flawed assumption in assuming that a lot of the things packaged together as religion are actually something that we need. But there are Unitarian Universalist churches. There are secular synagogues. There are ethical societies. Whether or not that actually counts as a religion or not, I'll leave that up to somebody else. But there are groups like Oasis and Sunday Assembly that are essentially meetups that are kind of church-like or gathering-like. It's similar, and they do it on Sundays because that's when people have time off. I've spoken at some of those organizations. There are also movements to attempt to rename and relabel atheism, things like Brights, which wasn't a huge hit because it was thought that it could imply that we're the Brights and you're the Dims. There are established religions that have atheistic varieties. Some Theravedic Buddhists are atheists. Some Hindus are atheists, but also there's Satanists. And then there's the secular humanism, which was originally created as a secular religion. It's accepted as a religion in the sense of freedom of religion under law, but I don't even really view secular humanism as a religion in a significant sense, but I don't have any objection to labeling it that way. And then there's things like atheo-pagans and all these others. We're a messy species trying to put labels on and package things and sell them. I just did a video, which may come out before this one or after this one. Well, if not, I'll probably see you next Friday, on Christian denominations. And so if you haven't seen that, you can look forward to it coming up. If you have seen it, this is the take on atheism beyond that. But we keep trying to create these things in part because we're communal and because we grew up in a culture where religion was the label that was associated with fundamental things that we tended to view as essential, like community and a source and foundation for morality, ethics, and things like that, and a way to educate and learn and participate and be supportive of each other. We're often dissatisfied with what already exists, and we need something similar but more to our liking, which is why there's, within Christianity, there's Baptists and Catholics and Pentecostals and Lutherans and Methodists and Brethren and all these other things. And then within the secular community, there's all kinds of labels. Some of them I just kind of ran through as well, but there's also many that aren't labeled. There's a new, I don't exactly know how new, but I would say maybe within the last 20 years or so, proposed alternative to religion. And I think the creator of this religion is the one that messaged me and said, hey, I'd like you to take a look at this. And I ignored it. And I ignored it the first time, honestly, because I went to the website and it looked, I don't know how nice I can put it. It looked like somebody took their ideas and was desperately flailing around trying to create a new religion. And I don't have any interest in that, but I don't like to poo-poo everybody's idea. For example, I've lectured and spoken at Oasis, but I don't regularly attend an Oasis. I like what they do and I like the community there. It's just my Sundays are busy, and when they're not busy, I keep them kind of for myself. I have the same interest in community as many other people, perhaps not as strong as some, otherwise I might be going there. But when I didn't reply to them, they messaged me again, and I was like, I've seen this before. And interestingly, when they sent this, they asked me for my feedback, and I was like, well, I don't like the idea at all, but I didn't want to poo-poo somebody's idea. But then they asked me for more feedback, and so I gave it to them. And that discussion didn't go particularly well. They're wondering why I'm attacking them and what did they do to them, and all this. The website, or the religion, to whatever extent it can be viewed as a religion or alternative to religion, is called Mysticism. And the first two sentences, or first three sentences from their about page used to say this. I will read it to you, and I'm going to insert my thoughts as I expressed it to them. Mysticism. Already, I hate the name. And they're also not consistent in how they spell the name on the website, but we'll get to that a little later. Mysticism is a sensible philosophical identity, doctrine, and community. Doctrine's a really loaded word, but where is the community? Do they have meetings? Is anyone a mystic other than the guy who sent this to me? I mean, some of you are going to be like, why are you even critiquing something that, like two people know about? I don't know, but it's important. And we'll get to what I think about it later, about this whole, let's create a new religion. But it says it offers a rational alternative to religion. Well, I don't need an alternative to religion. In much the same way that I don't need an alternative to cancer. You get rid of the cancer and you're cured, you're healed. And so I don't need an alternative to religion because I'm not convinced that religions provide anything that I need to replace. And as a matter of fact, what I think is that religions have co-opted the things that I need, and I don't need to view them as tied in any way to religion. But it says the ultimate purpose of the MCU, and that's Mystic Community Union, I think. So that's already a struggle. And I was like, you called it the MCU. The MCU is the largest movie franchise in history. That's like calling your organization the NFL or OPEC and expecting it to take off. You're not even going to be found on searches by MCU, probably. But it says the ultimate purpose of the MCU is not a vague gathering of a nefarious cult seeking to ensnare unwitting individuals. Now, if you have to tell people you're not a cult in the second sentence of your about page, they're definitely going to think you're a cult. And also, that's not a useful sentence that says anything. The ultimate purpose is not a vague gathering. You should say the ultimate purpose is to promote blah, 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 blah. The ultimate purpose is blah, 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 blah. When you do, the ultimate purpose is not, at that point, you're now telling them what your ultimate purpose isn't. But also, what you followed it up with isn't even a proper sentence structure. The ultimate purpose of the MCU is not a vague gathering of or a nefarious cult seeking to ensnare unwitting individuals, comma, where's the rest of that? It's an incomplete clause. But it says, we aim to promote a naturalistic community that values rational thought, cool, scientific inquiry, cool, and ethical principles, cool, based on empirically measurable well-being without any supernatural elements. Okay. Have you read the Secular Humanist Manifesto? I know they have. They're going to get to it later, but I'm like, what are you adding here? Where's the value? What's going on? I gave him that feedback, and that was it. Just that feedback on those first 3 sentences. And I was like, I don't like the name. I don't see a need for it. I think this is all a waste of time. I think it's something that's been done over and over again. And this, I just don't like to poo-poo people's ideas. So when you ask for feedback, I just opted to not answer. But since you're going to, keep asking, I'll give it to you. So here's the actual website, mysticism.org. I'm going to tell you right now that there are people who are going to be like, oh my gosh, are we going to go through every part of this webpage? No, we're not. We're going to skim through, and I'm going to talk about all kinds of things. I probably won't spend too much time on the incredibly distracting background images that are all over this website. This is basically the 2024 copy of, or version of, like, GeoCities with all the bells and whistles, and let's put 1 million graphics on there. And yeah, this is not a modern site, but let's ignore style a bit and go for substance. The About page has been changed. And so now the first thing says, mysticism is a sensible set of philosophical principles. So not identity or community, that offers a rational alternative to religion. So based on my feedback, they changed this page. And then it says we aim to provide a naturalistic identity that values critical thought, scientific inquiry, and ethical tenets based on empirically measurable well-being, completely devoid of supernatural elements. I still don't like the name, and I don't see any need for another version of secular humanism. And so I wondered what was different. And while I'm not going to be proofreading their entire site for spelling errors, marketing errors, and conceptual errors, but let's take a look around. First, on the homepage, they've got this snail as their logo. In their About section, they describe how and why there's a snail. But it's a sensible philosophical identity, doctrine, and rational alternative religion. Our key elements. We strive to be evolved. Now, already I have an objection the second you say be evolved. That completely, fundamentally misrepresents evolution. It does this sort of ladder progressing towards something, has that sort of feel to it. Because when they say be evolved, what do they mean? Well, by accepting our imperfections and adopting a mindset of continuous growth, we embrace making mistakes, learning from them, and striving to improve. This governing mindset, our mother principle, shapes the other elements, knowing we can only do our best as we evolve. What the hell does that have? None of that means anything. Be evolved. Hey, you're going to make mistakes as you evolve. But I'm not evolved. Oh, we mean evolving in a colloquial sense, not in the biological sense. So you're becoming something greater. Okay, so you're misusing the term in metaphor to be completely different than it is. Their next one is be kind. And it says, by following a scientifically measurable moral framework and code of ethics that aims to increase well-being and reduce suffering for ourselves, other sapient beings, the environment, and nature's ecosystem. What is the scientifically measurable moral framework for kindness? I'm all in favor of kindness, and I'm in favor of scientifically measurable frameworks. What's the scientifically measurable moral framework for kindness? I don't know that they ever actually address it. And there's a handful of other things here, not I'm not going to go through and object everything or spell check everything, but if you go to the About tab, here you go. Another site, and in a minute it's going to be very difficult to see because, oh, there's a bright sun that comes up over and blocks the letters. And the lettering here is, of course, the same color as the background. So just about the time you get down to this second paragraph or so, that's where the sun is right in your way. So, I'm not going to spend too much time on the visuals here, but we already did part of their About page. And there's a few other things here. Because this is, why should we write no religion? Oh my gosh, the earth thing in the background you can't even read this. Why should we write no religion or merely agnostic? Here, let me highlight this. Now I can read it. On a census form, when we embody so much more, we find marvel and sublimity in the world like any other intelligent beings, except we don't attribute these experiences to any supernatural interpretation. This sounds like, I don't want to just write down I'm an atheist on a census form. I want to say I'm a mysticist because there's so much more to me than atheism. Look, the census is not trying to figure out everything about your worldview or say there's not enough of you or there shouldn't be more to you. It's saying, here's a bunch of normative labels that we're going to use to categorize stuff. Agnostic and atheist are among them. No religion is among. I remember when I changed my dog tags to no religious preference, even though I was still a God believer. I didn't have a religious preference at that time. This just feels like, hey, I'm wondering, is this a way of avoiding those labels? Like, I don't want to say I'm an atheist on a census, so I'll say I'm a mysticist, which is, by the way, it's an incredibly clumsy label to say. And it sounds a lot like mystic and mystical, mysticism. And they think this is clever, but it's confusing. I'm a mysticist. A mysticist, a mythicist, oh my gosh, it's obnoxious. But when you get down there, it says, here, I'll highlight this one. Mystics train themselves to deliberately pause and savor those natural, non-supernatural, spiritual, in quotes, moments of wonder, awe, and connection that transcend the ordinary. That inspired feeling you receive from your brain and nervous system when you look at the Milky Way, learn an important truth, or hear a beautiful piece of music. So how do mystics train themselves to do this? Well, we'll get to that too, I guess. But yeah, evidently their goal is to train themselves to experience awe and wonder. What does spiritual mean when it's in quotes? I mean, I don't know what spiritual means normatively. Spiritual is, and spirituality and spiritualism, those are useless terms that mean almost anything to anybody. But because they're so tied to supernatural things, the mystics want to call it spiritual and put it in quotes. That way, they kind of lean towards the supernatural thing. But no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But we're doing something akin. We don't have a good word for it. Who decides whether someone's a good mystic or a true mystic? I don't know. When you get over to the basics, there's some work here. There's a lot of questions that they answer. It's weird because here's the basic elements, but then there's also an FAQ. I would think this would be the FAQ here, but it's not. So under the basics, they embrace Aweism. Why are we aweistic? Aweism is a concept introduced by sociologist Phil Zuckerman in his book, Living the Secular Life, New Answers to Old Questions. Yeah, so in 2013, Oprah Winfrey famously told someone that if they experience awe at the nature of the universe, then they're not an atheist. I ripped into Oprah. Many other people ripped into Oprah. It was a big deal for a couple of weeks, where here we are in 2013 and we're being told that as atheists, we can't experience awe, or we don't experience awe, or she doesn't feel, it makes her sad that atheists can't experience awe. And so Phil, in his book, wrote about something he calls Aweism. Now, like mysticism, Aweism is a cumbersome little label, but however Phil intended it, I think Phil might be a little surprised, perhaps not in disagreement or disappointed or whatever else, but what's happened is somebody's read Phil's book and decided they liked Aweism, so they're going to roll it into their philosophy and put it up on a website as Mystricism. And this is why we embrace Aweism. Now, I experience awe regularly. In addition to all the work that I do on the various programs and the videos that I produce for this channel, I experience awe both at epic failures and confusion in humanity, but also in nature on a regular basis. In addition to all the other things that I do, I'm also a reptile breeder. We work with 15 different species, 14 different species of snakes currently, and 5 species of reptiles. We breed and hatch out beautiful morph combinations and everything else, but even just the basics of the structure of snakes and how they work and how efficient their metabolism is and how beautiful the patterns are and how intriguing it is to watch the different types of locomotion that come with not having legs. I could sit here in awe of just one species of snakes for ages, maybe lifetimes. I experience plenty of awe. I like it. I don't think I need to call it Aweism, but I don't object. But I definitely don't need to wrap it up in some sort of religious packaging. The next section here is called Imperfect. And this is going to be just mean on my part. I don't know that there's any way to perceive it other than that. This is a pretentious metaphor that somebody spent time writing in order to try to inspire people, and yet I find it trite. In the vast, unpredictable ocean of our lives, we chart a course guided by what we consider the embodiment of our ideals. The ideals of the Mystical Community Union, the MCU, are the lighthouse on our horizon, illuminating the course we strive to follow. They serve as our unwavering point of navigation. However, it's crucial to recognize that our ships, though sturdy and resilient, are crewed by imperfect sailors. Each of us, navigating our vessel with unique flaws and shortcomings, holds the tiller, trying to steer with as steady a hand as possible. It's a good attempt at trying to say, life's rough, nobody's perfect, keep going. Bon voyage, and cast your lines. I don't see, there's also some confusion here, and this is where the sort of analogy fell apart, because it says the ideals of mysticism and the MCU are designed to give people a rational identity and a sensible philosophical alternative to strive and uphold. That's cool. If the ideals of mysticism in the MCU are designed to give people a sensible philosophical alternative to strive for, cool. But it says, sentence after that, all the MCU asks of mystics is to point ourselves in the right direction, be mindful of shared values, and do our best. It seems like a long-winded way of saying, hey, something we all know, we've got some ideals, set a good goal, and if you fail to meet it, you will still have made forward progress. The next tab's about truth. Then there's an FAQ. Then there's the Q&A, online Q&A. Do you see yourself as a scientific pantheist? There's the blog. Then there's an entire entry on morality of well-being and ethics, mystical ethics. Then we get to praxis, which would be the practice and customs. And this entire thing is basically saying, meditate. This is the mystic praxis and customs, is merely to meditate, and specifically set a time, choose a suitable space, get into a comfortable position, focus on physical sensation, augment the principles of mysticism. Augment the principles of mysticism. Man, if that's not AI generated pseudoscience-y woo gobbledygook, actualize the augmentation of principles of mysticism. Once you enter the groove, it's like being in love. You'll know, give yourself time, whatever time you have to be available to enjoy this mental space. So it's basically just saying, meditate. And then step 6, gradually return to the present. Pretty sure I'm really bad at meditating, so maybe I'm not. Pretty sure I was always in the present. But maybe return your focus to the present. And then, of course, here's a trippy snail art. Maybe it's... But then there's the first steps for new mystics. So basic meditation when you wake up before you go to sleep. Cool, that's the practice. There's nothing in there, nothing in the praxis, the orthopraxy from mysticism, that seems to do any of the things that they suggest that mysticism is about. The next section is on critics, and it's criticisms and responses. And number 1 is, are we a cult? And it says, certified cult-free, we've checked under every robe and hood. We don't have any charismatic leadership or isolation or manipulation demanding, oh, look, we're not a cult. We're not. But if you're not a cult, it's clear that, and this is a question that people are asking, it's clear that you're already presenting something that needs clarity. And are we a cult may not be it. Then there's a list of heroes: Rachel Carson, Bertrand Russell, Albert Einstein, Sam Harris, Marcus Aurelius. And then there's a place for stories to inspire. Then friends, which evidently there's AA for agnostics, which I think is a 12-step program for agnostics. I have loads of problems with 12-step programs, but whatever gets you sober and better off. Then there's a section called rivals and contenders: Abrahamic religions, Scientology, Buddhism, Sikhism, humanism, and Hinduism. Humanism is listed as a rival? Or possibly a contender. And down in their critique of humanism, this is where you'll see mysticism is spelled differently. This may be an older page because it's spelled with a C instead of a K. I would suspect this is probably the original name, as another part of the website lists that mysticism is a portmanteau of mystery and metric, except that it's not. I don't know what the technical limitation on a portmanteau is, but it's not merely a merging of those two, because there's more there. Mystic, metric, if you change the spelling, but we'll go with it. But if it was mystery and metric ends with a C, not a K. So at some point they decided to change it from a C to a K. And like I said, I'm not just going to correct spelling errors, but they have a critique of humanism up here. And basically what this all says is humanism doesn't go far enough because it only focuses on humans and doesn't consider the value of non-human life. Cool. I've had other people try to say that that's a problem with humanism, but the thing is, I can be a humanist and still value non-human life. It's not like humanism is opposed to valuing non-human life. It's not like you couldn't be a humanist and a vegan, for example. Nothing's stopping you from that. Nothing's stopping you from using multiple labels. You get over in there after the rivals, then there's the union, and this is how you've got an inclusivity statement, and then what's our position on membership? And it says the members try to ignore the psychedelic background. The members of the MCU respectfully acknowledge that our approach may not resonate with everyone. Cool. It specifically says, our intention is not to challenge or convert those who hold different beliefs, but to provide a sanctuary for those who already share our perspective. So, mysticism doesn't have any desire to promote itself or defend its views. It just wants to find people who already agree and have them join and share the label. That's it. That's the whole thing. There's more on their website to actually read through, of course. And if you are one of the people who already agree with the principles of mysticism, well, there you go. I've pointed you to it. They're not going to defend their views. They're not going to proselytize. They're not looking to convert anybody. They're not going to say, hey, you're a secular humanist. Ooh, maybe you should come over here to mysticism. They just want to find people who are already mystics and don't know it. Why does anybody need this? If we already agree, your label adds nothing. So do we need a labeled identity at all? Or another one, do we need a secular doctrine? A good chunk of this website, I'm not saying it was AI generated. I'm saying I have no reason to believe it wasn't. When I look at the text there, I don't know that I feel that there's anything substantive there. It could have been AI generated. But this is clearly something somebody spent a great deal of time putting together and thinks is important. So how can I just dump all over it? Well, because they asked for my feedback, and here it is. What do we need that religions provide? Well, as far as things that are exclusive to religion, nothing that I'm aware of. What do we need that religions attempt to co-op and that don't need to be a part of religion? Well, I'd say two things really easily: community and engagement. And by community, I mean the metaphoric food for our metaphoric heart or soul, the community and communion that we feel when we engage and share time with other people, when we help them, when they help us, when we work together to help somebody else, when we work together towards a common goal. All of those things are community. And community is not a function of religion. It's a function of humanity. And it's a function of smart things like game theory, that cooperation is the best method. So while not everybody needs community to the same degree all the time, and some people will definitely want nothing to do with community or certain communities, generally, we're communal creatures. So that's one aspect. The other one that I listed was engagement. And for that, I'm talking about inquiry, information, and intelligent interactions, food for your mind, things to grow your mind, to have a better understanding of the world so the decisions that you make are better informed and have a greater likelihood of resulting in a better world. That's it. Now, we need these things to varying degrees. For each individual, it varies from time to time. There are some times where I want to engage in just filling my brain with stupid nonsense in order to give me a break from processing other things. And there's times where I want to be a part of a community and times when I'd rather just sit here in my chair and play a game on my own. I don't need to label it or make a list of doctrines or principles, because that's been done over and over and over again. When it comes to the Secular Humanist Manifesto, for example, there are 3 different versions, and there are things to like and disagree with in all 3 of them. There are aspects of the second version that I prefer over the newer one. And it doesn't change the fact that I'm a secular humanist. The same is true for Satanism. The same is true for any number of these attempts to put together a neat little package for atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, whatever. I can participate in any or all of those labels or not. I can agree with them without needing to use the label. I can have community with them and work towards a better world without the label or their approval. I'm a secular humanist, a skeptic, and an atheist. I could find a dozen other labels that fit me to varying degrees, and it may change from day to day. I'm an atheist, an agnostic, a freethinker. All of those fit. I agree with Satanists on many things. I agree with ethical society folks on many things. I agree with, well, it's hard to agree with Unitarian Universalists since it's just kind of do whatever. But why do I need to add mystic to the long list of here's my non-religious identity and it's better than yours because we do this and not that? And to be fair, mysticism isn't saying that because they only want people who already agree. You're either attached to reality or you're not. You're either doing good things or you're not. You're either rational or you're not. Some things are needed and some are not. I don't see why we ever need another alternative to religion with spirituality, with air quotes or not. This feels like a fanboy's attempt to emulate what others have done while adding their special flavor to it. And that's fine. You get to do that. And if it resonates with somebody, cool. But I was asked for my feedback, and so I'm giving it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and we definitely shouldn't be copying a design and making parts better and parts worse. Just live your life. Do good, feed your heart, feed your mind, and help feed the hearts and minds of others. That's it. If you have to label it, instead of promoting it within other things that already exist, I think you missed the point. But you might disagree. And if you find there's something substantive to mysticism that you value, cool. And if you put the meditation practice into work and it benefits you in some way, cool. But how many more of these attempts at creating, oh, I've got a new atheist religion or a new atheist philosophy that's an answer to religion or a new secular philosophy. I want to avoid this label. I want to avoid that label. I want to make sure I use this. I want to make sure I lean into spirituality. I want to make sure that I use the sort of flowery language that inspires. I want to make sure that I'm encouraging awe, and I'll do it by Aweism. It may feel like, well, Matt's just going to poop. There's tons of ideas in there that I like and value. There are many ideas in there that are probably good. But this feels like someone who didn't look at what the available options that were out there. Kind of like somebody tried to make the Third Baptist Church with the same views as the Second and the First, only slightly different. And saying, here, come to our community. And you can do all that. But I don't need it. And I'm not sure who it's for. I got a lot of stuff that I have to focus on and deal with. And building some sort of alternative replacement to religion, like that doesn't even make the top 50 list. It's been done. It's been done to varying degrees of success. And at the end of the day, live your life, do good, go. Be excellent to each other. See you next time. Bye-bye.